Hello, gorgeous. So glad you could make it. My name is Betha, and welcome to Caplio, where I do readings for strangers on the internet. Today, we've got a couple of new things we're going to try here. Today's message is going to be a message from your pet. And before you scroll away, if you don't have a pet, this could also just be a very prevalent animal in your life. Maybe there's a bird that you've been feeding that's kind of come around your window a couple of times. Maybe there's a turtle that you keep coming into contact with when you go to the lake. Whatever this is, if you feel like you're still drawn to this and you don't currently have a pet, I'm going to assume that this is either an animal you come in contact regularly with, a pet from the past, or a future pet wanting to come in to give you a message. But if you don't connect with any of these piles that we have in front of us, that's totally fine. I do have other videos in my arsenal if you'd like to go check out my catalog on my channel. But otherwise, I hope I'll see you in the next one. But if you are new to pick-a-piles, then here's the last bit of my spiel that we'll add here. I have 3 options in front of you today. What you do for a pick-a-pile reading is you choose whichever one you are intuitively guided to or attracted to strongly. So I have this little horse crystal here, this buffalo crystal, and this little dog crystal. And whichever one seems to be catching your eye, whichever one you are guided to, that is going to be the message for you. And I'm sure you've noticed that underneath there are these little bitty tiny travel Uno cards. I want to prove today that you can divinate using any materials at your disposal. You don't need to buy all these flashy sets and crystals. You just got to use what's in your gut. So let's see if that ends up resonating through the reading. Like I said, without further ado, go to the timestamps in the descriptions below to your pile, and we're going to get right into the reading. Let's see what your pet has for you. Hello, Pile 1. If you chose this horse pendant that I am realizing is a unicorn, actually, then this message is going to be for you. And I have a feeling I've made this realization a couple of times. So starting off with this little crystal dude, I'm kind of getting the vibe that your pet is very loyal, but where you see them as stubborn, I think they see themselves as independent. There's this idea that maybe they don't always come when they're told to come. They don't always, do exactly as they're asked, but that's not them trying to negate you in a sort of rebellion to upset you, but more of a, like I said, an independence to kind of show you, hey, I am my own, I'm my own animal, and I'm going to do what I want to, and I want you to trust me more with that. I'm getting this vibe that your pet doesn't do these things to piss you off, to say hey, I don't respect you. It's more of a, they want your respect in return for their independence and the way that they hold themselves. I'm also getting a sense that you might have a working pet of sorts. Now that might be, maybe you have a working dog breed, like some sort of cattle herder. Maybe you have a service pet of some sort, a therapy pet. Could also see it maybe being some sort of barn cat. But it feels like your pet has, maybe for some of you guys, this is a schedule that they adhere to, whether it's imposed or self-imposed. But I could also see it being your pet holds themselves to such a high standard of work and worth. They do think that what they do, either when they're following you around the house or when they're there when you're working, is their form of helping you work. And I do think they have their own regiment and schedule when it comes to working, or they try to adhere to one. But let's get into these little Uno cards to get an idea of what your pet sees for your energy currently. I have the blue 7 in reverse, along with the green 1 in reverse. And this is kind of telling me your pet has seen you as kind of scattered recently. This could be emotionally or just mentally. I'm thinking it's a little bit of both. Just this idea that, focus please. Sorry. Just this idea, there we go, that you've kind of been a little more all over the place than normal. Maybe you are a regular multitasker and it just feels like your pet sees you from going one place to another. I'm also getting this sense of not being super present while you're getting a bunch of things done. And I think it's kind of stemming into a little bit of neglect for your pet. I'm kind of hearing broken promises. So maybe recently you've told your pet that you might go and do something with them, or you're going to change something within the dynamic, and it hasn't really happened, either just because you've forgotten about it, or maybe you haven't had time for it. It feels like, not that your pet is really keeping score, Although maybe for some of you guys that do have a more vengeful animal, this could be a little bit of a keeping score and you've kind of noticed it with their behavior or how they act towards you. But I do think that there's a little bit of, for some of you guys, I think with the more independent type, there's a little bit of attitude coming through with them. But I do think this is just a little bit of upset because it feels like, for this pet specifically, and this is a specific message for some of you, you might have gotten them when they were a baby, or you might have gotten them at an early point in their life where you were fawning over them a lot more than it feels like you are taking care of and paying attention to them now. And they're kind of noticing that and wondering if they did, or for a little bit they might have wondered if they did something wrong, but I think they're starting to recognize just how busy you are. And they notice how not only has this taken a toll on them, but they do notice the broader spectrum of how this is taking a toll on you. And you might have noticed at different points that this pet might have tried to distract you from certain tasks or kind of garner your attention elsewhere when you were trying to focus or work on one thing. And that's their way of trying to like pull you out of this rut where it seems like you're doing everything everywhere all at once. At least that's kind of like how they're perceiving it. Like I said, it's kind of like the scattered mental energy of like you're doing one task, you're not paying attention to anything around you, and you're going straight to the other task, like from place to place to place, without stopping to kind of see what's going on around you or to enjoy yourself a little bit more. And it feels like this pet truly is taking that energy and wants to see a change in that. They're worried about you. I'm also getting the sense with like how I didn't really recognize this was a unicorn until after the fact, but I thought it was a horse at first. Your pet feels very special. And I think this is something that you've kind of implemented in their energy to make them feel very special, but I think it's something where they recognize that it's weird. Okay, so your pet kind of recognizes that most people kind of look at them as if they're just like another pet and they do whatever, but you have shown them and you've seen them in a light where you see how special they are, whether it's like they're very talented, very skilled, very smart, or just there's something about them that you've really honed in on and you've been like, you are special in just some degree, some way, something with their personality. And that's something that they take to heart and they associate with you specifically. And I think they almost like have this mirror aspect to it. Like I'm hearing Uno reverse where it's like you might see them as this beautiful or this special, but they see that in you. And it's one of those things where I think both of you guys are looking at each other with a you're so special, you're so beautiful energy, and the other one's like, but you really don't understand how special and beautiful you are. Like this back and forth, I feel like, of just a lot of that, like trying to lift each other up, but also the other one not realizing just how deep these feelings go. I also get a sense that you and this pet particularly, if you feel like you have a stronger connection with this pet than any other pet that you've had before, I think that that's guided divinely. I do think that either you guys chose within this lifetime that you were going to teach each other a specific lesson. I do think it's on like perspective, and I do get like a lot of heart chakra vibes when I'm going into this reading. So I do think it's like heart opening, new perspectives in love. Like I said, it could be something that you guys decided you were going to do in this lifetime, but I do see that your souls might be some sort of kindred spirits that knew each other in other lifetimes as well. I do get this sense that like with a lot of this pet's independence and how a lot of times you get aggravated or upset with a lot of this quote unquote what you see as stubborn energy, this is something that's meant to teach you something about yourself. There's a lesson here about allowing, like trusting their independence a little bit more, but also like for them, it's learning how to listen to you. It's like a parent-child energy here where it's like your pet needs to realize that you put these boundaries or you worry about these specific things because you care about them, their safety, their health, but they also want you to let the reins off a little bit, to give them a little bit more independence and freedom and allow them to earn your trust a little deeper. Anyway, so that's the initial messages that are coming through. Like I said, your pet sees you currently in a very distracted and scattered energy. And I think it's coming up, like I said, as a little bit of like feeling of maybe neglect for them. So let's get into how they see you normally. Like their image of you and who you are. Let's see. Sorry, let me see. Ooh. Temperance in reverse. like I said, there's a lot of parent-child energy here. And I'm seeing that kind of through this Temperance in Reverse card too, because it gives me the idea of like when you're a kid and you see your parents as these benevolent creatures that know everything, but you get older and you start to recognize, oh, these people are also human. They have their own flaws, faults, and issues that they deal with. That's why I feel like this Temperance card is in reverse, because I think when they were a baby or when they first met you, they kind of saw you as this Temperance upright, where it's this angelic creature who is super balanced, who, you know, has a handle of everything, of how they regulate themselves, of how they take care of their life. They know it all. They're this guardian, benevolent angel who is just, I don't know, constantly in this energy of everything is fine, everything is balanced, I can take care of everything. But something has changed that's kind of, they see you now in this more of, they recognize more of your shadow, so to speak. They recognize where, you know, you've got times where you get too distracted in the other things that you're doing, or you get too many things happening at once. They've seen a little bit of your emotional dysregulation at times. They see more of you. And it's not in a negative light, but I do get this like teenager vibe in this aspect where it's almost like your pet does love you and still sees a lot of the benevolence in you as well, but they're also like irritated about certain things, if that makes sense. And they might not see it as this, but to me it's kind of coming through as this teenage rebellion. So like for some of you guys, if you've had shoes going missing recently and they get all chewed up, or maybe that something got scratched in the living room, or I don't know, maybe just some weird behavioral issues, I think it's some sort of teenage rebellion that's coming through here. But I do want to clarify, because I think there's a little bit more that we're not seeing with this Temperance in Reverse. So what else? Okay, Knight of Cups. But they do still see you as this. I think what I'm hearing here for the Knight of Cups, rather than being a queen or a king, is the fact that you are trying to love them to the best of your ability, and they recognize that. And it's not that they're facing... I mean, it's that idea of there are going to be some disappointments that come through regardless. We can't consistently and constantly be the best for everything and everyone. But they do see your little offerings of love to them, and they do still love you. You know what I mean? Like I said, it's this recognizing that you are a person like them, if that makes sense, that you have your own faults and fears and struggles, and that you're not perfect. But they still see you as somebody who offers them love and play and treats and enjoyment, and even though times might get tough with you guys sometimes, or you might be having issues that you're going through, they still recognize how much you love them and how much that you still care for them. Like I said, there's just this idea that they're feeling a little bit of neglect because of this busy behavior we've been in. I think I forgot to add that maybe recently you've been very busy with, it's something material I'm seeing here, so it could be like maybe you've been going to the gym or working out a lot more, or you've been in and out of work or doing a lot of things for work. There's this like idea of material that's been taking a lot of your mental energy, and it's kind of, like I said, creating this scattered energy that your pet is picking up on, this like focusing on so many things at once. But they do recognize that at the end of the day that you do love them, and you're going to try to do what you can to show that you love them. I don't think it's coincidence that this is a knight either, beyond the fact that it's like, yes, they recognize some of the immaturity within you as well, because like I said, it's, I shouldn't say immaturity, that doesn't feel right. It's just that idea, like I said, going back to, you're not this perfect benevolent creature. They do recognize some of your faults, but they also see you as like this knight in shining armor energy, if that makes sense. So whether this be like a family pet or your personal pet, I do think that this pet comes to you when they're feeling sick or upset, or they know that you're going to take care of them whenever they're sick or they get hurt or something happens. They know that you're going to be there, and you're going to be the first one that's trying to like calm them down or give them a sense of comfort. And yeah, I think that's kind of what's coming through here, is this like protector energy, so to speak. We're going to pick these up then, and then we're going to do a final message of what your pet would like you to know right now. What would your pet like you to know right now? Okay. We have the 8 of Swords, the 8 of Cups, and the 10 of Wands in reverse. And I had to show, okay, I do have to put this out there, because the bottom of the deck energy is this Knight of Cups, and as I paused the video, there was a 1313, and 13 is the number of the Death card. I'm going to keep this off screen, I feel like. But just this idea that it's the Knight of Cups here, I think the first thing that's coming through is they want more of your love offered to them. I think that there is a lesson here that this pet is helping teach you right now within this energy. Like I said, they're probably coming through with a little bit of behavioral issues or more like this standoffish teenager vibe right now. And I do think this is all, like I said, it's because there's a bit of neglect that's coming through here. You might have noticed recently that maybe when you spend more time with them, suddenly your pet wants to hang out with you a little bit more, is a little more clingy with their energy. But then maybe other days where you don't get to spend so much time with them and you're working, they kind of seem more standoffish and doing their own thing. It kind of feels to me here like this is your pet and this is you. Your pet sees themselves trapped to some degree. I'm not saying that they feel like trapped. But maybe your pet doesn't really get to go outside so often, or if they do, they're kind of in like this gated, fenced area. Your pet feels like they are, and like I said, this is their feelings. This doesn't necessarily mean that like this is the full scope of the situation, but how they feel is you get to go out and do all of these things. Whether you're happy about it or not is a completely different thing. But they see you doing things like going to work, or going to exercise, or going to different clubs, or going to school. Well, they're stuck here, back at home, or back wherever, maybe they're at like some sort of daycare or something like that, or maybe they're being taken care of by a family member, but they find themselves stuck here, not knowing what you're doing and almost not knowing what to do with themselves while you get to go out and do all these adventures and explorations. What they're asking you within this is to take down some of the burdens that you've placed upon yourself, not just because they see where it's kind of like draining your energy in different ways and where you're kind of losing yourself in it, but also because they want to go back on that priority list. I don't think it's something that you've necessarily consciously chosen to take them off of. Like I said, I'm not here to like demonize you or anything. This is kind of like what's coming through with the perspective here is this idea that your pet feels like they've kind of fallen off of the priority list and you have so many other things that you're going and doing on your own where they feel like they're stranded and left on their own here. And while you might not be able to take them with you to work or to the gym or anywhere else, it's kind of this ask that they have that you make a little more time to show them a little more love. Not just in like a couple extra treats here and there, but also like setting up specific days where you can take them to socialize somewhere, or maybe you take them with you to the park, or somewhere where they can get out of this place that it feels like they feel like they're quote unquote trapped in. I mean, it's not trapped as in the sense of like, oh, I can't escape, but it's more trapped in the sense of like, they want to explore, they want to see more, they want to experience more of the world, and they want you to take them with them. And I can't remember if I said it on this take or on a different take, so I'm going to reiterate. With this working vibe that I get from your pet, I also get this idea that they have a regiment and a schedule, whether it is self-imposed or imposed by you. They want, if you can expend more time for them, reprioritize your list to come up with specific moments just for them, they like the consistency. So if you could take, maybe you have a day off within your week that you have a couple of hours that you could expend taking them out to a park or taking them for a walk or somewhere where they can like get out and explore a little bit more. I can even see like if this is a fish, maybe changing the dynamics of their tank that they're in, or if this is like some sort of like lizard or something that doesn't really get taken out of like a tank very often. I'm getting this idea of like rearranging their home so it feels like somewhere new, taking the time out of your schedule to do that. But if this is more like a dog or a cat or something that kind of can be walked and brought out a little bit more, finding some time within your week to kind of like add a consistent, like say you're off on Wednesdays, and Wednesdays at 12 you start taking your dog to the dog park for an hour. Even that little bit of like ritual just to show your pet that you do still love them, you still have all of this care for them, and that you will take the time to do stuff for them. Similar thing here could be like you have a hamster and you know your day off is Wednesday at 12 you take them out, you run around with them in the living room for a little bit, or you let them do whatever and you know then put them back in the cage after, or like making that a treat where every day you come back from work and you take your lizard, your snake, your hamster out of their cage and you let them walk around the house for an hour. You know, it could still be penned up or whatever, but it's a different scenery for them to check out, you know what I mean? It's just this idea of spending time together and making it a regular habit. That's going to, I think, make your pet feel that connection again, and you might see a difference in their behavior. Like I said, I don't think that they've been necessarily like doing a bunch, like being like a huge shit starter or whatever. But I do think that you could probably attest to some of that like teenager rebellion energy that's been coming through. But I think that's pretty much it. I think that's what's coming through the message. And if nothing else, I do hope this message resonated. I do hope it helped. Thank you so much for staying for the reading, love. If you are interested in booking a personal reading with me, please check out the link in the description. Check out my website. I would love to work with you, but love and light. Try out some of this routine fun and see what changes. Also, let me know how it resonated in the comments below. Have a good day, love. Bye! Hello, Pile 2. If you chose this little, I believe it's a buffalo dude, then this part of the reading is going to be for you. And right away, with the buffalo here, I'm getting the idea that your pet, or the animal that we're talking about here, is a very social creature of sorts. And very social in the idea that it likes to spend time with pets in its similar demographic, we'll say. It seems like this pet, and maybe they're more social with people or children or others of their species, or maybe other species of animals as well. It just feels like they're a very social creature. Maybe that just means that they yap a lot too. I don't know. But I do get the idea that if you do find them to be more social and like hanging out with either others of their same species or humans of some sort, it seems like they garner towards a specific demographic. I think for a lot of you guys, this demographic is like their shared gender or their shared age group, kind of. Like if this is like a puppy, maybe they like to hang out with babies. If this is an older bird, maybe they like to hang out with elderly people more. But it seems like they kind of gravitate to whatever specific demographic kind of lines up with them. I also get this idea of like, for some of you guys, they might do some sort of like a specific behavior that you find very amusing. They like to continue to do it. Like what came to mind for me is I have a dog that likes to dig in the carpet and things like that. And whenever he digs, I'll say, dig, dig, dig. And it kind of makes him want to dig some more. But for others of you guys, I get this specific image of like maybe a cat rolling around on their back or a bird flapping just one wing in a specific way. Like there's something that you either praise or you laugh at or brings you some sort of joy that this pet sees you react to it and continues to do that behavior at certain moments just because they're trying to garner your attention or garner that laughter from you. I also get, and this is going to be for some of you guys, not everybody here, but if you have, depending on the size of your pet, I'm thinking that they think they're either bigger or smaller than they are. I'm getting this idea of like a 180-pound lap dog, or like a tiny little like chihuahua that thinks they're this giant Labrador. And also, I know I keep talking about dogs here specifically, but take this as it resonates to any pet that you have. Like I could see this tiny little bird thinking that they're just some giant dinosaur, or this big fat cat thinking it's just this tiny little kitten kind of vibes. But those are some specificities to maybe your animal and their personality. I'm also getting kind of like, maybe they have their crazy moments, but I think for a lot of you guys, this animal sees themselves as just kind of chill, lackadaisy. I'm getting like this image of just like laying out in the shade when they can, or just napping somewhere in the sun. I think that they do have their moments and spurts of energy, but the animal themselves sees themselves as more of this peaceful creature. Regardless of how you view them, they see themselves as like a, yeah, like I said, I guess peaceful is just the word that comes to mind. Not really lazy, but kind of like enjoying their times of rest. Like knowing how to just be themselves, regulate, and just chill for a while. They don't always need this constant stimulation, it feels like. Anyway, that's kind of the personality we got here. Hopefully you have an animal or a pet that kind of like is lining up with that vibe. Now let's get into the Uno cards that we have here are going to give us an idea of how your pet views your current energy, the kind of vibes that you're bringing to the table as of lately. So we have the blue 4 in reverse and the yellow 1 in reverse. So I'm seeing that maybe recently you have been having, like, you've been feeling bored or like everything is mundane, and your pet does notice that you seem to try to be, you're seeming to try to shake stuff up a little bit. Like trying to shake up routine or change how you do things or try new places. Maybe they've been smelling new places and new people on you. But I can also see that your pet does see that you're in this, I don't want to say negative, maybe a pessimistic mindset as of recent. Or maybe this is just some of your anxiety coming through here that they're picking up on. But it does seem almost like I'm hearing running. So I don't know if this is like mentally, maybe you've been trying to avoid something, or if your pet just sees you on the go more often, maybe you have picked up running as a hobby recently. But it does feel like, it feels like you're constantly out and on the go in your pet's eyes. Not unlike what our first group got, but where our first group was more like busy, this feels more like you're trying to find new things to do and keep yourself busy. Rather than already having a checklist of things to do, it looks like you're, like I said, kind of looking to shake up routine or change things a little bit here. But I do think your pet is seeing that a lot of these more impulsive changes are not going to stick as much as the subtle changes are going to stick, if that makes sense. I don't know. It just seems like a little criticism that your pet is coming through with. Maybe you've had this pet for a while. I do get the vibe that this pet might be an older pet. If older doesn't resonate, then maybe, I think for some of you guys, this is an older pet, and for others of you guys, this might be a pet that you've had for a while. And if neither of those resonate, then I would assume that that means that this pet just feels like they have a lot of wisdom and a lot of understanding of you. And also remember that time is relative in that as well. So if it feels like maybe your pet just feels like they've been around you for a while, you know what I mean? Like years and months are going to line up differently with people to pets, if that makes sense. But like I said, there's this criticism here that your pet seems to think that all of these changes you're trying to make at once are not going to stick, but the subtle changes that have quote unquote made themselves will. And I think your pet is asking you with that, before we get into like the deeper reading here, to kind of just go with the flow a little bit more. I think your pet sees themselves as a very go with the flow type, kind of taking things as they are. I don't think they put up too much of a fight when they have to take things as they are, if that makes sense. And they kind of want you to learn from their energy. I think where the other group kind of felt like a parent to child energy, this pet kind of feels like the parent energy, if that makes sense. Not necessarily where they see themselves as your parent, but they do see themselves as a mature and guiding spirit that is there to help and heal you, if that makes sense. They kind of have this energy of like, like they try to guide you, almost like if you're, say you have a cat that kind of does chirps and trills and then walks away and tries to show, like she's trying to, he or she or they might be trying to direct you somewhere. Or if you have a dog that tries to like garner your attention and then go into the other room, they might be trying to guide you somewhere. Or even if you have a fish that kind of like knocks on the tank a little bit, they might be trying to get your attention as well. You know what I mean? I keep going back to cat and dog. That's just because that's like in my brain of pets, but this can like be interpreted for any pet. We'll get into that in a second. Like, I do think that even if you have a pet in a cage, for example, also for some of you guys, you might have been listening to the Smashing Pumpkins, and there's something here about, despite all my rage, I'm still just a rat in a cage. This is a really specific message, but if you own a rat and you've played that song around them, they really do like that song. And I just need you to know that, because they might want you to either play more Smashing Pumpkins or play more music that talks about rats. I'm hearing like rat representation. Take that as you will. That is very specific. But that also might apply to, like, people with dogs that listen to Who Let the Dogs Out recently or something like that. Only take it if it feels like it resonates, mind you. I know this shit sounds crazy sometimes. But yeah, I'm kind of just, like I said, getting a vibe of more, like, partners for some of you, but I think a lot of you guys, like I said, your pet feels like they are almost guiding, healing, and taking care of you on their own. Kind of like a parent energy, but a little more equal than that. So, like, maybe like an older sibling energy, if that makes sense. Because they do see where you take care of them, but they feel like in maturity, they kind of run the show. You know what I mean? So they feel very certain when they tell you that they feel correct on this whole change thing. And to, like, maybe listen to them if you can, if that makes sense. There might be some sort of habit or behavior that hasn't made sense recently, or that might be coming up soon, that if you really pay attention to it and recall a little bit from this reading, I think it's going to line up where, like, what they're trying to tell you in implementing change in your life is going to make sense, or learning how to flow better. Anyway, I think that's it for the initial messages here. Let us grab a couple of tarot cards to... Now we're going to see, in this part, how your pet views you as a whole. Where this is like the current energy that you've been in that they've been noticing, we're going to see how your pet views you. I'm also seeing, for some of you guys, this is a snake. And for those of you that it's a snake, watch, or like some sort of lizard, I would say watch how their shedding skin lines up with yours, if that makes sense. There's a message here about, like, maybe you're trying to do something too soon, or you're trying to implement a change too soon, and what your snake or reptile or, you know, whatever sheds its skin, whatever pet you have with that, is trying to show you is, like, something about, like, your energies are naturally vibing and to flow with your transformation with their transformation. And that might apply broader to, like, any kind of animal, but there's a specific image coming to mind about, like, shedding skin that I think applies to those of you that have, like, snakes or reptiles. But anyway, so your pet sees you as a 9 of Cups, and we're gonna get one more, and a 5 of Cups in reverse. In many ways, your pet sees you as stubborn and rigid, but also as very proud, and in a good way. Like, proud as in, like, they see you maybe as you're, like, doing your makeup in the morning, or getting ready, or, like, derobing within the day. I do want you to know that your pet does find you very beautiful. Even though they don't always understand your routines and the things that you do, beautiful regardless of gender, my love. There's this, as I see 1, 2, 3 on the clock there's this concept of, like, getting ready or derobing throughout the day that comes through, where, like, maybe your pet is there or has been privy to watching you with your morning and night routines, and there's something so, like, magic to them about it, like seeing you transform in a way. But they find you beautiful regardless, but they like to see you in these different forms, if that makes sense. There's something about the way that you present yourself that is so fascinating to them. And I think for some of you guys, this is specifically about some sort of, like, perfume, body spray, or cologne that you use. That if you find that your pet seems to, like, cuddle up to you more when you are using that, then that's a call to, like, they like the scent and then maybe to find more like it. But if you find also alternatively that there is a specific scent that your pet seems to kind of, like, walk away from, I think for some of you guys there is a scent to, like, look into, either in the toxicity of what it is to your pet, or maybe your pet just doesn't like it. Like, for some of you guys, if you're using lavender and you have a cat, be careful, because I know that lavender is not something that's, like, very good for cat skin. But yeah, there's just a couple messages there with that. But your pet also kind of sees you as this stubborn energy, I think I said, and as I kind of see here, which is why they're trying to get you more in that flowing energy, because they see that the stubbornness often leads you to this grief and this loss. When they're trying to remind you sometimes, like, I'm right here, your life can't be all bad, is kind of something that came through. They just want to help you when they see you in this position of sadness. If you notice that your pet kind of tries to do silly things, like, the other thing we have to realize too is, like, our pets are going to try to comfort us in the way that they would want to be comforted. So for some of you guys, when you are in more pain or illness, it feels like sometimes you'll notice that your pet avoids you a little bit more, but also recognizing if you see that pattern in behavior, check out when your pet is upset or ill. Do they seem to isolate themselves more? That's their way of trying to like do for you what they would like done for themselves. Alternatively, for a lot of you guys, I do think this is your pet coming up to you and cuddling with you. For some of you guys, it could be your pet tries to give you a toy. They're trying to play with you. And I think for a lot of you guys, if you have a pet in a cage, when you're in a weird space and if they feel like they're open to being around, then have them around you, because I feel like they have more healing energy than you'd give them credit for, if that makes sense. But I do think your pet is highly intuitive here. And I do think that, like, for some of you guys, if you notice that your pet looks in weird areas or makes weird sounds or acts weird, you might have been able to line up recently that they might have been seeing different energies that you can't see, you know, like fourth dimension, other world vibes, for lack of a better term. I mean, it is something that I think that they're protecting you energetically, and it's just like cool sometimes for them to see all this other stuff. But I think they wanted that to come through because they wanted you to know, first off, they believe you have a lot of these powers as well. It's just about how to unlock them and utilize them to your advantage. But it's also because they want you to take them seriously when it comes to them being intuitive and them trying to give you answers. Like I said, if you find that your pet is trying to bother you while you're working, or is trying to grab your attention and take you to another room, there is this ask here that you, if you are applicable to, drop what you are doing currently and follow them. Even if it doesn't feel like you're able to drop what you're doing currently and follow them, try it out and see what happens. Because I think a lot of times your pet seems to think that you get into this stubborn mindset of like, I have to get this done, I have to do this. But they're trying to show you that there are other ways to approach what you're doing, and it's so much easier if you go with the flow than try to force yourself to do one thing off the checklist and then the other kind of mindlessly, you know what I mean? I think your pet also recognizes that there's this huge gun for change in you recently because there is some sort of heartbreak that you're trying to avoid here. And if it seems like you're trying to go get up and do something and like, say last second your cat comes and sits on your lap when you were about to go transition to another activity, give a second to kind of listen to the energy that they're bringing. Give a second to kind of flow with what's going on. Because I do think that your animal specifically, this mature kind of vibe that comes through here, also comes through a lot of this healing power that we might not be able to understand, but this pet understands. Like there's this little saying that, you know, a cat's purr is actually energetic healing. There's something about the frequency that aligns and heals our chakras, for example. And going back before with this idea of like your change and transformation, if you have a reptile, kind of lines up with them shedding their skin. I think there is something here not only about you and this pet being connected, but this pet having this psychic sense of healing that if you just kind of let them take the lead, they're going to teach you a profound lesson about flow that's going to help you unlock more of the energy you're looking for in your life, whether that is abundance, love, just a breath of like a releasing breath of thank God that's over. But there is something here where if you listen to your pet, they're going to bring you some sort of answer you desire. I'm trying to think. I'm also seeing here that they see such a duality in your personality. Take that as it resonates. I don't know if it's just this like happiness, sadness that they see both of, but I think they just see a lot of dichotomy in you. Like that you are so, that you have the ability first off to be so fluid and changing with the energy to make things a lot easier, but also that you have such depth to you. I think out of a lot of people in your life, this pet seems to recognize your depth more than most. And that could also be just because they recognize their own depth, which I feel like they're almost calling you to recognize more of. Also, there's something here, if you'll notice, both of these characters are wearing like a dress or a cloak of some sort. And I want to say that either your pet has a connection to somebody that used to wear a lot of skirts or dresses, or maybe you do. if this is a pet that you've gotten in like older age, like they had a different owner before you, there's something positive about their past owner that you remind them of, and that's probably why they're so fond of you specifically. But there's also something here about like, maybe there's a specific outfit they like you wearing that kind of reminds them of like a skirt. Like, if you don't really wear skirts or dresses, I think for some of you guys this is like a specific skirt or dress, but if you don't really wear that, then maybe there's some sort of long coat that kind of looks like that, or something baggy in your apparel that kind of gives the image of a skirt or a dress that they're like, I'm hearing kilt for some of you. There's something within that they like that outfit on you, or they, I don't know, something interesting there. But I do think that there is, like I said, there's this proud image that they see within you, and they're happy that they see that pride within you. I think there's something where this animal only wants to associate themselves with people. Like there's a lot of empathy that this animal wants to associate themselves with, but there's also like, they feel confident and proud because they are the pet, or because they are connected to somebody who has such trophies, so to speak. I don't know if this is something physical that they look at, like trinkets in your room, or like things that you've created, maybe like art things or whatever, but there is something here. It could also be, I do think another interpretation is this is personality, maybe so many abilities that you have, and there's something about that they admire within you, because the word that comes to mind is whimsy. That you're so multifaceted and different than a lot of people that they've come across, and they like that about you. Anyway, got a lot into kind of the how they view you part. Now let's see, finally, anything else that they need you to know. We kind of got into a little bit of it within the last couple of sections, but Six of Pentacles, Ace of Cups in reverse, and the Seven of Pentacles. I think part of it is they want you to stop for a moment and reflect. It seems here like your pet wants you to give to more things that give back to you. But I'm also seeing I'm seeing two interpretations for this card here. One of them is this is you giving to all of these other people, but the fact that your pet wants you to like give back to yourself a little bit more, or be careful of where you give to. Just be cautious and like, not cautious as in be fearful, but like just watch where you're giving your energy to and notice how it's reciprocated. But I think for others of you, this is your pet with their healing energy. And they want the ability to heal and give to more people. Now, whether that's like taking them out of the house and letting them explore more, or simply allowing them to have time with you, or maybe introducing them to friends where they can help heal. I do think this is more of like, allow me the opportunity to heal and help more, rather than like dismissing when I'm trying to show, or you know what I mean, when I'm trying to show you something, or I'm trying to like help you cool down. I do think that this Ace of Cups in reverse is mostly a call for self-love here, that your pet really wants you to take more time to take care of yourself and to like work through these emotions or whatever's going on here right now, because your pet is worried about you. But I do think there's also a degree where it's like your pet feels like you could be spending a little more time together, more or less. Like they want a little bit more of your love as well. They do understand that you're busy and you have things to do, so that's why they're not really trying to be too pushy about it. But there is a slight degree here where it's like, if we could have a more, I'm hearing spontaneity actually, where the other group wanted more structure. I feel like this pet wants more. Maybe you guys do have specific schedules with this pet to do things. I think this pet just wants a little more spontaneity and a little more play. If you could pick out different times just randomly to start throwing the ball for your dog, or put out a little catnip for your cat, and just maybe curl up with your bird for a while, or hang out with your hamster in its ball, you know, something to like just spontaneously start surprising this pet every once in a while. What I do think it's more of like surprise me with play than with treats, but treats could also be very, very accepted as well. And then finally, your pet just wants you to recognize how far you've come. Also, maybe reminisce a little bit on the time that you've spent and the time that you've had this pet in general. Maybe if you want to sit down and go through old pictures or talk about stories with this pet, I do think this pet really likes hearing you talk, really likes your voice. And actually, back to before when I was talking about the rat in the cage situation, for some of you guys, you might have sang around your pet rather recently, or maybe you used to play an instrument and your pet would sit down and listen. They want you to get back to that to some degree. They really like hearing, maybe you were telling stories to them, like reading them a book or something like that. Maybe some of you guys have thought about it and that's your pet trying to implant that idea of like, I don't know, if you were hanging out with your lizard one day and you're like, what if I read you a bedtime story? That's your lizard trying to implant that as an idea. It'll make sense if that's supposed to resonate to you, but I do get this idea that there is some way that you've either talked to your pet or sang to your pet, maybe there's an instrument, whatever it is you've done before, your pet does enjoy your voice and wants to hear more of that to whatever degree. I do think for some of you guys, your pet would like to go through some pictures and just talk with them about old stories and how different situations with them made you feel. I think they understand a lot more than you give them credit for. It's just they don't express in a way that you expect them to express, if that makes sense. Like if you've had dogs your whole life and you now have a cat, your cat emotes differently than the dogs that you're used to. Or if you're getting a lizard for the first time and you don't know how lizards emote, your pet's kind of asking you to take the time to understand what they're trying to tell you because they understand you a lot more than I think you give them credit for. But I think that's pretty much it. If nothing else, I do hope this message resonated and helped. Please let me know in the comments below how it did resonate and if it did, because I would love to hear it. If you're interested in booking a personal reading with me, please check out the link in the description below. Check out my website. I would love to work with you, but thank you so much for staying for the reading, love. Have a good one. Bye. Last but not least, we have my pile 3 here. You guys, I feel like, are going to be my most interesting reading, as per usual. Don't tell the other groups I said that. The other groups flowed so nicely, I'm hoping we can continue the theme for this one. To start off here, if you chose I'm assuming it's an adventurine dog, then this reading might just be for you. The vibes I'm picking up immediately are well-behaved, loyal. Depending on, I don't think it really matters what kind of pet we're talking about here, but I think that they do know quite a few tricks. Whether that's something that you've taught them or it's something that they're just like privy to. I do think that they know, like I said, I'm getting well-behaved. Abundance is coming through because of the adventuring, and I do wonder if this pet has like helped you in some way with your abundance or is like helping you with garner the energy of abundance, if that makes sense. For some of you guys, you might have a social media page for this pet. And I do think that this pet thinks that they're a star to a degree. Some of them are going to be more ham than others. I do think others of them, though, just like, maybe you take a lot of pictures of this pet and they see themselves as some sort of celebrity with that, or a lot of videos. But I do get that this is very, like, docile pet, can really be ham when they need to, but is more of, like, a chill vibe. I do think they tend to be a very loyal creature. I'm getting kind of an idea of if this is a pet that has run away in the past, they've come back to you, if that makes sense. Like, maybe they got out for a little while, but they've always either come back home or let you catch them. Or at least in their mind, if they're the kind of pet that runs away and does their own thing, they're quote-unquote letting you catch them. I don't know if that's the reality of the situation, but they see it that way, as in like, okay, I've had my fill, I guess I'll let them get me now, kind of thing. I'm trying to think if anything else comes through here. I do think they're playful, but like I said, I think they are more docile, where they would rather just like kind of lounge around. There's a luxury vibe. Okay, so part of the celebrity vibe that's coming through is a luxury kind of thing. They like to be taken care of. They like to be pampered. They like to be given things. Maybe they don't always want to work. They can work for their treats, but maybe they don't always want to work for their treats. Kind of like, I get this idea of a parrot kind of saying things and getting treats out of it, but they don't always want to do that. So maybe sometimes they kind of like test you to see how long you'll kind of wait before you'll give them something. But anyway, I want to get into the Uno cards that I have here, which is kind of your current energy and how your pet is receiving that current energy. So we have the red 2 here, followed by the draw 2 red in reverse. The first thing I'm picking up on is a lot of anxiety or reactivity. And I don't know if your pet has been receiving this or if your pet has kind of just noticed it, more or less. I do think with the 2 here, we're talking to some degree about connections and partnerships, but with the draw 2 in reverse, the first word that comes to mind is receptivity, like receiving. So I do wonder if there's an energy you've been receiving recently that has made you that way. I do think your pet has found that you have found a little more balance and stability recently, but there is this anxiety in receiving that's coming through. Like, I think your pet may have met maybe some more of your friends recently, or has like noticed recently you've been hanging out with more people, or specific people. I think like I can see like a dog catching the same scent of the same people on you as you come home, kind of thing. Or maybe a cat meeting some of your new friends recently. But I do get this idea. Okay, so to me, because when you draw 2 in Uno, you're taking 2 cards for yourself. But with the receptivity being in reverse, I feel like it's either there is a loss of 2 specific things in your life, or you're waiting for return on 2 specific areas of your life. And when I say that, it could mean like, and when I'm thinking areas of life, I think like relationships, career, spirituality. So maybe there are 2 specific areas that you're waiting for the work that you've put in to be returned to you. And it's almost like there's this anxious energy of like, I don't know if this is going to happen for me. Maybe I'm not worthy, or there's some sort of reactivity that comes into here too, where I think your pet may have noticed that these stressors are kind of coming through. Your pet may have noticed some of the anxiety or some of the frustration that's coming through from these positions. But I think they like it when you come back. For some of you guys, they like it when you come back smelling like specific people, because they know that you're going to be in a better mood, if that makes sense. Not like they're afraid that you're going to take this energy out on them per se, but more like they like seeing you in a better mood because they like the energy that it brings. I do think also that something that you have found balance in recently, whether that an example would be like if you have multiple jobs and you found a way to like balance it so you have a work-life balance better, or even just finding a work-life balance with one job, or maybe like you found more balance in your connections. Somewhere that you found more balance in recently is kind of helping you alleviate some of this anxiety, and your pet wants you to continue to try to find outlets like that, if that makes sense. So maybe for some of you guys, you've set up like a specific day a week that you can go hang out with your friends, or you're creating more plans to go hang out with the people you love, and that kind of helps you balance some of this anxiousness and kind of come back to being present. There is something here about like one of your routines that you've set recently has made you more present and find more balance. And your pet is kind of coming through to be like, the more that we step into this energy of balance, I like it, but I think it also will benefit these 2 areas we're waiting for return on. Like I said, examples of this could be like, maybe you put a job application out there and it's been a couple weeks and now you're anxious because you're waiting for the return on that, or maybe a grade on a test. Or maybe you're just anxious at the prospect of like, I haven't dated in a while and it feels like there's nobody here for me. It could be a couple different venues, but it's 2 specific areas of your life that you are waiting for some sort of return on that's caused this anxiety. And your pet kind of has this idea that like, the more you find balance and you find ways to remain present and enjoy yourself, rather than falling into this obsessive like worrying energy, the more balance I think you're going to find in these areas of return. Anyway, that's what I have, I think, for the initial message here. So let's get into the tarot cards. Now we're going to get into, we've gotten into what your pet thinks of your current energy. Let's get into kind of how your pet views you in general. And you are the first group to get 3 cards for this part. The other groups got 2. So, of course, my pile 3 has to be different than everybody else. I love to see it. I did not get zodiacs for the other group, but I will say that I highly am feeling, take what resonates and leave the rest, a fire and an air sign for this group. Like, in your big 3, I do think, or somewhere prominent in your chart, I think you've got fire and air, because there is a bit of impulsivity coming through. I do think there's a little bit of a message here with the Fool in reverse that your pet would like to be... I think as much as there's like an impulsivity here... No, okay, I see it. Your pet feels like they're kind of at your right-hand man when it comes to this. But no, I think there's a little bit... For some of you guys, there is a message here that you guys used to be buddies a little closer than you used to, though. And your pet wants to go out and explore with you more again. Like, maybe it's been a weird period for the last couple of months or year or whatever, and you haven't been able to explore as much with them, but it feels like when there was a moment of time where you and this pet were just together constantly, and a lot of the adventures that you would go on together. They miss that. They love seeing you in this... It is impulsive. It feels impulsive. This, like, impulsive energy to go out and do something, to go out and explore. They do see, I kind of see you guys together too in the Knight of Swords, where it feels like you are this knight here who's ready to charge at any scenario. Like, if somebody's talking back at you or something, you're going to be aggressive right back, or you're going to protect the people that you love. Your pet feels more like the voice of reasoning, if that makes sense. Like, I get this image of, like, one person who's ready for battle like this, and the other person that's like, if you look at this horse's face, there's kind of like this worry and this, like, warning, where it's like, oh, maybe pull back a little bit. I could see you guys, like, if your pet was a person, I would see it as you're trying to go, like, somebody talks shit to you and you're ready to go swinging, and your pet's kind of, like, holding you back from going into the fight. Sorry, that's just, it's silly to me. But your pet does see you as, like I said, a strong energy. A little bit of impulsivity coming through here, but I think that's part of where they see a lot of your fun. They like the spontaneity of it. I think your pet is very much like I'm getting like an older vibe. That doesn't necessarily mean that your pet is old, but I think for a lot of you guys that might resonate that you have an older pet, because it just feels like not docile, just like in a calm energy, but more of like an older, matured, like, I've had my fun, I've made my peace, I've done my crazy stuff, now I'm kind of just, like, vibing in life. And your pet likes to see the youth and the fun and the imagination that comes through you. I do think for a lot of you guys, they see you as this Empress energy, and that's not to say that this is not talking about gender, calling you male or man, woman, or anything in between. It's, or outside of the spectrum, so sorry. But it's coming through to say that your pet sees you as this nurturing energy. Not just nurturing, but there's a regal aspect to it. And it's similar to, like, the last group, where in the last group I was talking to them about their pet likes to see them, like, get ready in the morning, or kind of get de-ready at night. Your pet likes to see you in the energy that makes you feel bougie, for lack of a better term. The energy that makes you feel diva, your sexiest, your strongest, your just the whatever way that you dress or take care of yourself that makes you feel that regal energy. Your pet loves to see it, but also sees you that way no matter how you dress. You know what I mean? There's something specific about, like, when you take care of yourself and put the energy into your appearance, your pet loves to see that radiate from you, but they also just see you as this nurturing and capable energy that not only takes care of them, but has, like, that parent vibe, if that makes sense. Like, you might see yourself as this pet's parent, this pet also sees you in a way as, like, a parent energy. Not in the traditional, like, you're my mom, you're my dad sense, or you're my parent sense, but more of, like, I want to say kind of similar with the other group, where, I don't know, it's hard to describe, but it's not the traditional parent sense. They just see you as this, like, nurturer, this benevolent. I'm almost wondering if they see you as royalty to some degree. Like, you are the royalty of the house, king, queen, or crown of the home, if that makes sense. Like, your word is law. And it's not something that they, like, not in a negative way. It's just they see you as someone in a way to be subservient to. I don't think that's the right word. I think it's more like someone whose word is law and somebody that they want to please, if that makes sense. There's also something here about like a specific blanket that they might have, and that they don't mind if you're the kind of, if you like have draped the blanket over them before, they don't mind that. They kind of like it, if that makes sense. There's a specific blanket though, and if it's resonating, then you'll know what I mean. Trying to see what else is coming through here. I think back to the regal energy we were just talking about. Your pet wants you to start seeing yourself in that regal energy. I think there's this idea where your pet recognizes that you don't see yourself in the way that they do, and they want you to recognize your worth a little bit more. Almost like they get disheartened when they see you down about yourself. Because I think your pet understands more of your language than I think you realize. And with that, there's this double message of like, talk to yourself better, but also like, when you're talking to me, I know what you're saying, bitch. So let's be careful. Like, so if you've noticed that their behavior just randomly, put it that way, after you've said something, if you see a change in their behavior, think about what you've said afterwards, because I do think that like, your pet's a little cheeky, if that makes sense. You'll see what I mean the next time a situation like this occurs, but like, pay attention to how do you speak to your pet and how their reactions follow. Because I think your pet understands a lot more than you give them credit for. There's also, similar to the last group, there's something here about your voice. Your pet really enjoys your voice. But I think it's more of like, I do think part of it is like when you talk to them, but they want you to talk to them like an equal, if that makes sense. For some of you guys, maybe if you use a baby voice, your pet would rather, like, they like the high-pitched tone, but they would rather you talk to them as if you were talking to a friend. And I think for others of you guys, there's also this message here about, like, singing. And when you sing, it kind of reminds them of birds. Take that as it resonates. That's kind of just what came through here. But anyway, that's kind of what I have for how your pet views you. Also, there's something else here. I don't know if maybe you guys play with sticks with your pets or what, but if you'll notice, there's like some sort of staff in each one, or sword in this, but there's some sort of like staff or stick in each one of these pictures. There's either like some sort of specific stick, or maybe it's a toy. For some of you guys, go fishing with your pet. But there's something to take note of there. And maybe it's something that you've seen when you were going out shopping for your pet, or maybe it made you think of your pet when you're shopping. Something about a staff or a stick of some sort. Or maybe for some of you guys, your pet just wants to play sticks with you more, or wants a specific stick from you. Anyway, that's what I have for that. Let's see what your pet actually needs you to know at this moment. What does your pet need you to know at this moment? We have the King of Cups in reverse, the Eight of Pentacles in reverse, and the Nine of Cups. First thing that came through strong is your pet is saying they want you to stop giving your love to all the wrong places. There may have been a promise that you made to them that you might be avoiding recently. If that resonates, take that as you will. It's just for some of you guys, you have a pet that's been holding on to this promise that you made to them, and they're still waiting for it to come to fruition, and they don't know what happened. They don't know if you've forgotten maybe about it, or if you just, for some of you guys, I'm wondering if your pet's like, oh, maybe they just don't care about that promise. But there is something here about something that you've said that you were going to do or do for them and just never really happened. Maybe for some of you guys, it's a trip or a treat or learning something or a toy. But I think sometimes your pet feels like you have given so much love everywhere that you might not have much left for them at times. And it's not like, it's not super neglectful. I think that you still like give them a lot of attention and energy, but I think sometimes they feel like it's quote unquote second rate compared to what you give to others. And they worry about some of the avenues that you've expended your love, if that makes sense. Maybe there are certain people within your life that they've kind of given you a bit of a warning about, if that makes sense. If their behavior was weird to a specific person, or they never really get along with a specific person, there could be somebody here they're trying to warn you about, and that if you took a step back from the situation, maybe you'd see things from their perspective, or I don't know, they just got a weird vibe from somebody. I also think they want you to be more selective of where you put your time and energy. For some of you guys, I'm getting an image of like scrolling on your phone a lot, and your pet does notice that. Maybe at some point they might get a little more annoying when you're scrolling on your phone. That's truly them trying to say like, hey, back to this root chakra energy here. Let's get back in the present. I want you to get out of this anxious state. Being on that phone is just going to make it worse. Come back to me. Sit with this feeling. It'll go away if you allow it to. There's this like stubbornness here, an inability to like let go of certain things as well. And I think your pet is here to help you find a little more peace and go with the flow, if that makes sense. I do think that this pet, much like the last group, is very good at flowing with the energy and just kind of like sussing out the vibes of a situation. And they're here to help teach you a lot of this. Okay, yeah, sorry. The phone vibe keeps coming to mind. So your pet really wants you to be more wary of your screen time, whether that's setting yourself up with different notifications to like get off apps at certain times. When they try to annoy you, it's not to be annoying is kind of what's coming through. It's because they want your attention back in the present. They see something about your pet, like whether it's a bird squawking, a dog nudging you, or a fish swimming weird in its cage, whatever's going on with this. It's because they can feel the energy or your energy shift as you're scrolling, texting, or whatever's going on. And they do want you to find more time to be present and less time behind the screen. I don't know why that's such a huge message coming through with this pet, but this pet is very, like, specific on finding more time to be present and less time on your phone. There's also some sort of movement that needs to happen here, or some sort of like letting go. And I think you've known about it, and your pet has kind of tried to draw your attention to it in their own way. I don't really know if this is an emotional or a material thing, but there's some sort of like letting go or moving on or moving in general that needs to happen or needs to start like implementing steps towards it. And it's not in a way to scare you, but in a way to, like, help you learn how to flow better, if that makes sense. Like, it feels like there's a change that's coming, and while your reaction might be to hold on tightly to this stuff so you don't have to let it go, so you don't have to flow with the change, your pet is going to show a lot of behaviors and display a lot of ways to, like, help you prepare for that flow, if that makes sense. In different ways that they might behave coming up, or different ways that they might react with you. It'll make sense as it comes along. It's like that idea of like, you're trying to get work done and your pet's nudging you constantly and it's like, you're annoying, leave me alone. But then once you decide to get up from your work and go follow them, they take you outside to play, and all of a sudden you find out, oh shit, I was in a bad mood. I'm feeling much better now that we went out and played. And now I can come back, return to my work, and I feel so much better getting stuff done. That's kind of the vibe that's coming through, but in more of like big picture thinking, if that makes sense. It's going to be little event or a situation that happens, and it doesn't make sense until you are faced with a situation in your life that you have to apply it to. You know what I mean? An example that kind of comes through is like with my dog. I take him for a walk, and sometimes that little fucker will pull to no end, sniffing one area and the next, and just like, he wants to go 5 to 6 miles an hour, and I'm ready for like a 3 mile an hour brisk walk. And it kind of shows me and reminds me like, hey, in my own life, I get so excited about going from one thing to the next thing and want the stimulation so bad that I forget to just, go slow and enjoy myself. It's kind of one of those things where like paying attention to your pet here is going to help you apply something broader into your life, a broader perspective. And I do want to say that I think there are a lot of different ways that you dress here and show yourself aesthetically, and your pet loves every single one. Going back to like seeing the Empress card before, your pet sees you as absolutely beautiful. Probably the most beautiful thing they've ever seen, honestly. Even if you don't believe it, or even if it's hard to make that resonate, your pet truly sees you as this enchanting creature. And that might be why you see them looking at you with those eyes, or looking at you so often, or wanting to be around you. They truly do love your energy and you as a person. Now, they do feel like they have to... I'm also getting a sense of, like, going back to that Knight of Swords card that we had, I almost wonder if your pet sometimes feels like they have to reel you in situations. Like, if you have people over and it looks like your pet's trying to guide you to go to bed, that's like their way of saying, hey, you know, the night's getting late, you know, before we should probably head over. It almost feels like, in a way, your pet, as much as they see you as, like, the one who makes the rules and stuff, they try to, like, stop you from doing things that they feel like might harm you, or are impulsive sometimes, or like they have this protector energy to them. Almost like if you're going to make this action and they see that it's an impulsive action that could possibly hurt you, they'll kind of be like, what can I do to kind of get their attention to stop them from doing that? Like, I get this image of somebody who's about to, like, drink from the bottle and their pet kind of nudges it away, telling them, like, hey, no, maybe not tonight. Let's go find some way else to kind of get through this energy. So if it seems like your pet ever does weird behavioral stuff that kind of pisses you off at first, maybe look at it from another lens, because I think a lot of times their weird behavioral shit is their way of trying to protect you. Here's an example that comes to mind. I'm not saying that it's going to apply to you. It's just the concept of the example. And if it does apply to you, then God bless, this was specific. But I see this image of somebody that's going to go meet up with an ex. And before they're getting ready to leave, they're grabbing their other shoe. They can't find their other shoe. They found that their pet has chewed it up and left it there. Like, their cat has scratched it up and just, like, hid it somewhere else as a way to, like, stop them from leaving the house and go seeing that person, because they get the vibes of the situation. I'm hoping that makes sense. Like I said, that doesn't have to be your specific situation. It's just, like, an example to apply if you start seeing weird things in your pet's behavior that doesn't make sense to you. Anyway, I think that's pretty much the message. If nothing else, I hope you enjoyed the reading. I do hope it resonated. Please let me know in the comments how it resonated and if it lines up to your situation. I love hearing how this all plays out. If you're interested in booking a personal reading with me, please check out the link in the description below. Check out my website. I would love to work with you. But if nothing else, love and light, my friend. Thank you for staying. And have a good one. Bye!